Welcome to the Tech Insider, where we talk to the people who can give you the insights and trends that matter to you in your business. I'm Christine Grail with Leica Geosystems. I am thrilled to welcome Eric Cowan to our program today. Eric is a reality capture specialist here at Leica Geosystems. Welcome to the program, Eric.
Thanks, Chrissy.
So, Eric, I'm wondering what you have done lately that's been fun, something different or fun or unusual.
Oh, something fun. I guess working on my backyard, getting ready for summer. Just doing the yard work, getting prepared. So have company over in the backyard. Other than that, just taking neighborhood bike rides with the nice weather. With my 9-year-old daughter, she loves to go on bike rides.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, the yard work. It doesn't sound fun to most people, but I enjoy yard work too. So I guess maybe we're gluttons for punishment. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
So, Eric,
the older you get, that kind of stuff is the fun stuff to do. You know, getting away
exactly,
from
exactly.
the crowds.
Yeah. So, Eric, you spent about 15 years surveying as a technician and a party chief. What
Mhm.
is one of the biggest memories you have from that time?
Oh gosh, I mean, just being outdoors, seeing all the beautiful scenery in northern Nevada. Sometimes I miss that part of it, but then it snows and I don't anymore.
Exactly. What is something that's really crazy that happened to you? Did you encounter? I mean, surveyors encounter all kinds of things, right? What is the
Uh,
craziest thing you can remember?
I found a dead body one time. Yeah, I
Oh
was
my
out
goodness.
on a boundary survey in a little small town called Dayton, Nevada, and yeah, found a dead body laying in a ditch. So
That
that
is
was
crazy.
interesting.
Wow. So
I'd
I'm
say that
used to
was
all the
crazy.
stories of the
The craziest
wildlife
thing.
and yeah.
What's that?
I'm used to all the stories of the wildlife and all the critters, but yeah, dead body. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Found one.
is that when you decided to stop being a surveyor and to come on board with Leica or
No, no, that happened a couple years after that, but, no, that was, I mean, as far as crazy stuff goes out in the field, that was probably the craziest.
no kidding. Well, aside from that, what is one of the biggest lessons you learned while you were a surveyor? Because you were a surveyor for quite a while.
Oh, biggest lessons, just to I would say just to stick to the fundamentals, make sure that, you're keeping really good notes, that your work is impeccable because everybody likes to point the finger at the surveyor when something goes wrong on a project. So just making sure that you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed. That's probably the biggest lesson that I learned.
Yeah, that makes sense. What led you into land surveying?
So I was just bouncing around in college, different majors, trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. I think I was probably on my you know, third year of being a senior in college. And one of my buddy's older brothers, he was a civil engineer, so I was kind of leaning in that direction. But then I saw that the surveyors got to go outside and be outside all day. They always seem to come back to the office looking pretty happy and still laughing and not staring at the clock. So that's when I started to go the land survey direction in the industry.
That Yeah, that is fun. I bet that's part of what you still miss too, is that camaraderie, being able to spend a lot of time outside, right?
Yeah, being outside, just being in all different parts of northern Nevada. We have a lot of beautiful scenery and mountains, and just being out in that every day, that was nice. You always build a good camaraderie with the guy you're with. Although the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years I was a surveyor, I was just pretty much solo out there. But that's nice too. Sometimes you just get away from everything and get some peace and quiet and time to think.
I'm sure you were involved in quite a few different types of projects, as most surveyors are. What's one of the most interesting things that you were participating in?
So I worked on a few different interesting projects. One of them was probably the Ritz Carlton that we built in the middle of a ski mountain at North Star Ski Resort. I got to work inside of the Nevada State Prison grounds. That one was pretty interesting. Did some scanning in there. The inmates who were in the high security part, they would come out for their their little 1 hour a day in the cages, and were pretty curious about the equipment we were working with. So that was an interesting project. Another one, I was working downtown when all the COVID lockdowns were happening because Reno has a lot of casinos and they have never shut down at any time in history. They're 24/7, 365 days a year, and they were shut down. So it was interesting. I had a scanning project down there and all the casinos were shut down. It was like a ghost town, and they were keeping all the homeless people in the event center across the street. So around 9 a.m. every day, they would come into this area that I was scanning. It was like being in a zombie movie. It was very very odd situation. Weird
I
time.
bet. Yeah. So tell me about laser scanning because you didn't start out, I don't believe, you didn't start out laser scanning, but you found your way into it. Tell me about what that journey was like.
Well, I just started out like pretty much everybody does in surveying. You start at the bottom being a rod man and kind of work your way up through the ranks. And um, the company that I worked for made a transition in leadership in the department. We hired a guy who was out of Arizona to be our survey director, and he started bringing in the scanning into the fold. And then we hired another guy who had experience in it, and I started working with him. And we started out flying drones was the first foray into getting into, I guess, the reality capture, and then from there, just started working with the tripod scanners, and then we got into the slam scanning, and just you just kind of make your way through the progression of scanning as you go through it.
Well, and you're a drone pilot too, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That's a trend that has been growing rapidly, especially within the last 5 years. And I know that there are also some concerns when it comes to drone surveying about accuracy. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? I'm sure that you, as a surveyor, when you started getting into flying drones, it was fun and you wanted to see what they were capable of. But how did you go through that process of making sure that you weren't compromising the data?
Well, the accuracy on a drone, you just have to use it on the right projects, right? We would fly drones over our uh, terrestrial laser scanning projects for ortho photos and things like that. But to use that data, it was more on large acreage mass grading projects, just stuff where the accuracy standards um, weren't as high as you would need as if you were doing a road rehabilitation or something like that. And the way you control the accuracy on that is you just have to have good control, take plenty of check shots, and just do verifications on all of your check shots throughout the project.
So it sounds like it was a fun experiment at the very least, getting involved in surveying with drones, getting involved in laser scanning. I think in your former role, you even used a BLK to go. So you got your hands on some of the really cool technology when it was first coming out, right? And it sounds like you were part of a pretty cool organization that recognized the value of experimenting and exploring with technology.
Yeah, yeah, it was great that we had such a supportive ownership that got behind us and let us do a lot of experimenting. And we tested out all of the different slam scanners and tried them on projects, and probably burned a little more budget than we should have. But no, it was good. That was a fun part of the career, was getting to test all that stuff out and work with it.
What amazes you about the evolution of technology as you've been part of applying all of it in different situations, different projects?
Well, I would say just how fast it evolves. It just evolves so quickly. There's just so much new stuff coming to the market. I like to say I started surveying in the Bronze Age, not quite the Stone Age. When we were still two guys out in the field talking back and forth on two-way radios. But I mean, gosh, just how fast it progresses is mind boggling.
Well, and you had the opportunity to use a bunch of different technology, not just the types of technology, but different brands as well. And here you are at Leica Geosystems. And I'm wondering why you decided to be part of Leica Geosystems, first of all, and what it is about Leica that both drew you and keeps you here.
So when I came to Leica, our company had just made a transition. They were we had merged with this really big company, and it just wasn't the same as what I had signed up for at that company. So I was starting to look elsewhere, and I got an email from like a recruiter, and it seemed pretty interesting to me. So as I looked a little more into the company and went through the interview process, I really liked the culture here and the fact that everybody who is in these roles at Leica has experience in the field that they're working in. So, if it's a surveyor, you have somebody who worked in the survey field who's working with you. If it's public safety, it's probably a retired investigator who actually worked with the equipment. So, I think that's what makes Leica stand out from the other manufacturers of all this survey equipment is that you actually have someone who worked with it, who is there to support and is genuinely interested in making sure you're successful with it.
Yeah, and so you've left the surveying world on the one side of it and come into the technology side, but at the same time, you're still very much involved, walking alongside your customers, helping them implement the technology, helping them choose the technology. Because, of course, here at Leica, there's all different kinds of technology that we have available, even when it comes to
Mm,
reality capture, right? Like you like the BLK to go, you're familiar with the BLK to go, but we
mhm.
have the RTC 360, we have just all different kinds of laser scanners. And so there are a lot of options. I think it's probably more confusing now than it's ever been for a
Well,
professional who's trying to choose the right technology.
sure, and that's where having the knowledge of the industry comes into play. Um, I've had people who inquired about a certain scanner that was not going to be right for their needs, and I had to kind of steer them away from that and into something else that is better for their needs. Like just yesterday, I'm working with a company based out of Texas, and they were leaning more toward the BLK to go, but the imagery is more important to them. So I went out and I took a couple of scans of sample data for them and did a screen share. And I actually, I think the BLK 360 is a better fit for what they're doing, even though it's more inexpensive product. It's going to take them a little bit longer in the field. The work on the back end is going to be less for them. The imagery is a little bit better, and it's just a better tool for what they need.
So it really helps for an organization who's trying to get into technology or trying to upgrade their skills to work with someone like you, Eric, because you've been in their position. You understand what they're trying to achieve. And you're
Mhm.
not just going to try to sell them something just to make the dollar, right? It really is for you about helping your customer achieve that level of success.
Yeah, it is because you want your customers to be successful, and you know, um, not have a product that isn't going to work right for them. So, I mean that's of the utmost importance is just making sure that they have the right tool for the job.
What do you love about your job right now and what it is you do every day? What is it that makes you excited when you get up every morning?
I really like working with this technology and working with all these different companies and seeing the way they implement it. There's so many different uses that didn't really occur to me when I was just using it in surveying. These visual effects companies and just all these different uses. There's an artist down in LA that I worked with, and he wants to go down and scan rainforests for art installations, like interactive art installations. So just all the different uses I get to see of the technology. It's very interesting, and I really enjoy that part of it.
Using laser scanning in art, that's so much fun.
Hmm.
You probably answer a lot of questions in your current role because You're getting people calling you, asking for guidance in choosing technology, asking for how to do something, maybe troubleshooting. What is a question that you get asked more often than most?
Oh gosh. You know, the question I get asked the most is probably outside of the work, and it's what is lidar. So I get asked that one a lot, but um, in the industry and in my line of work, the question I get asked the most is probably what scanner are we going to release next, and we don't know. Um, we don't get told until it's about ready to be released, but that's probably the one I get asked the most is what's coming out next.
Ah, too bad. Nobody who is listening in on this conversation is going to get any insight behind the scenes here. We can't drop any sneak peeks,
Uh,
unfortunately.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Is there anything you've encountered on this side of the job as a technology advocate that you didn't anticipate before you moved over from surveying into technology?
That I didn't anticipate. You know, I didn't really know what to expect when I moved into this role. So yeah, I think there's a lot that I didn't anticipate. But gosh, what would be something that I really didn't anticipate? Gosh, I'm drawing a blank on that. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much that I didn't anticipate.
Well, it sounds like
So
certainly all the applications that you're
there-
involved with, all the
yeah,
questions about different applications and things that you never expected probably
yeah,
fits that bill.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely didn't anticipate that. I would try. I would be working with someone who was trying to scan a rainforest. That's kind of stuff you just can't anticipate when you come from the survey world. So, yeah, just things
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any common misconceptions that you encounter when you're talking to people? And this, you might even go back to your surveying days when you started using technology. What are some of the most common misconceptions that people have?
Well, I think some of the misconceptions people have, if they're new users, that it's going to basically you can just dump all this data in and it's going to just kind of draw itself out. There's still some manual labor involved. You're gonna have to go in and still do the manual labor and the line work and applying the control and all that. That's some of the misconceptions, is that it's just like you're just going to drop all this in and AI is going to do everything. It's probably moving in that direction, but yeah, that's one of the misconceptions I have, especially with some of the newer users. And the other one is that it's going to be more difficult than it is. So there's the other side of that also. Some people are scared to break into it and enter into this because they think it's going to be really difficult. They know that going out and collecting the data is going to be easy enough, but what do they do with it on the back end? And it's not as difficult as you think. It's the software has come a long way. Like I said, it's not you can't just dump it in there yet and come out with a finished product and a deliverable, but it's not as difficult as you think. It's pretty user friendly.
Well, and of course, one reason that's probably a concern for most firms is there continues to be a labor shortage in surveying, right? Like there are very few firms that would say they have enough people. Everyone's always looking for more people. And so there are obviously a lot of activities right now around how do we draw more professionals into the career of surveying? How do we get them interested in what's going on? Certainly positioning it as more of a high tech field. I think a lot of people don't even realize that surveying is a very fun, high tech field. But what would you say are the biggest skills that are needed for someone who is now coming into the profession of surveying, whether or not they're focused on laser scanning?
Well, it always goes back in my mind to the basic fundamentals and doing accurate work. So I think if you are going to get into the field and you want to move into the laser scanning world, the your point cloud's only going to be as good as how accurate control is. So, starting with a good basis of fundamentals and just kind of working your way through, so you have a full understanding of the surveying field in general. I don't think it's a good idea for someone just to jump straight into doing this. Um, Being well-rounded and knowing all aspects is going to help you in the long run to understand what you're trying to produce with this laser scanning and the finished product you're trying to pull out of it. So, that would be my advice: is just go through the steps. It's going to take time, but you'll get there eventually. And once you do, it's a great field to be in. It's fun.
Well, those fundamentals are so key, and certainly things are changing so quickly. They've changed quite a bit, even just since you've been involved in surveying, and they continue to advance. I mean, now we're seeing a lot more artificial intelligence coming into play, and who knows what the future is going to bring, right? What future
Yep.
possibilities are you most excited about?
Gosh, it's kind of the unknown, but you can see where it's all moving toward. Just I'm excited just to see where it goes. What they come up with next. It just keeps progressing. It started out with these big, slow, clunky laser scanners on a heavy tripod, and now you're down to having something you can hold in your hand. And it's how are they going to combine the two of those and get the accuracy on the handheld that you get uh, with the laser scanner that sits on a tripod, and the mobile mapping. I mean, that's incredible. You can drive at highway speeds and pick up these highly accurate point clouds. Yeah, it's just who knows where it's going, but it's pretty exciting to watch how it all evolves.
It is for sure. Eric, I'm wondering if you are watching or listening to or reading anything that our audience would find interesting. Any recommendations that you have?
Well, I watch a lot of cartoons with kids. That's about all that's on my TV these days.
That might
uh,
be all that's worth watching, honestly.
a lot of cartoons on the TV. No, when I watch TV, typically it's just sports. I mean, other than that, I don't really watch much television. Um, uh, as far as listening, I listen to a lot of podcasts, just all over the spectrum with that. I love music, all genres, all over the place. I have a pretty eclectic mix. And then as far as reading, I just borrowed a book from Brian Elby, and it's called Extreme Ownership. I haven't really cracked into it too deep yet, but it seems like it's going to be a pretty good book. It's written by a former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, and he has a whole series of them. So I'm going to be reading that series and borrowing those books from Brian as we go along.
That sounds like a good one. I'll have to borrow it from Brian as well. I'm always looking for my next read. So, Eric, thank you so much for your time today. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope to have you on the program again soon.
Of course, thanks, Chrissy.
Be sure to check out the description for additional resources on this topic. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like. If you'd like to see more of this content, be sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Tech Insider.